What's up, YouTube? Siegfried True Lane here, and today, happy 30th anniversary to Resident Evil. Right now, I'm currently streaming all of the Resident Evil games live. I did the original first one, both Chris and Jill's story, the last 2 days. I will be doing 2 on Wednesday. Anyways, I want to make a video for today, and we're going to be talking about Resident Evil 6. See you guys in a bit. What's up, YouTube? Once again, happy 30th anniversary to Resident Evil. I guess technically this would be the Biohazard anniversary. Resident Evil's technical anniversary would be in about a week. But Resident Evil, guys, I loved this series. I always love this series. It's a series that I will buy without having to test run the game. And really a series where I've liked every game I've played of it. Now, I'm not saying every game has been good, but today we're going to talk about one of the most notoriously bad ones, which is Resident Evil 6. I want to start off with where I praise this game. And so let's talk about praising. First of all, this game has some of the best controls of any of the Resident Evil games, before 7, obviously. And to be fair, 7 is years after 6. So, they kind of had that. You know, they've had time to better things up. But when you take a look at 4, 5, and 6, 6 has some of the best graphics and the best gameplay, sorry. And when you take a look at the gameplay of the remakes, they really copy 6's gameplay, especially 4. It's better, of course, but the ability to move and aim, I love the ability to jump to the ground. That's really nice. Actually having some active abilities to dodge things, I think is a lot of fun. I do think that gameplay-wise, 6 is a lot of fun. But I want to now talk about what I find unfair criticism about 6. Finally, I'll get to my criticism about 6 at the end, but I want to go over the unfair criticism. I personally think the 4 different stories that interlock between each other was a great idea. They took 2 and tried to make it better. And I think that that was a really good idea, but I do think it was heavily flawed how they did it. I do think that they tried to bring back fan service without actually knowing how to make fan service good. I don't think the game is bad at all. I think the game is really good, but I think as a Resident Evil game, it's bad. And we're going to talk about that. I think the worst part about Resident Evil 6 is Helena. It's kind of funny. I was on the forums a bit about Resident Evil 7 about Mia, right? Like, why do you say Mia? Mia's kind of, she's, kind of involved with the crime syndicate, the collectors. I believe it's collectors, right? So why does she get this, what is this story with that? But I would say Helena is probably the worst NPC and female character in any Resident Evil game of the mainline series. I've not played Outbreak, so I'm not counting Outbreak or Survivors or anything like that. I'm talking purely the numbered series and Code Veronica X. So, number 1, we're supposed to feel this kind of empathy for Helena, but when you look at the facts, she murdered thousands, including the president, to save one person, just her sister, and didn't even save her sister. So in other words, she murdered thousands of people for no reason. And to kind of make this worse, she murdered thousands of young college students, people whose lives were just starting. She murdered all of them, and you've got to realize that she is the cause of the outbreak. She's what did it, and so she literally is the mass murderer. But we're supposed to feel bad for her because her sister was, being held by Simmons. It's really hard to justify killing thousands of people to save one. That's just really frustrating for me. And then, of course, she's just whiny the whole time. Like, she is... Ashley had been the worst NPC, the OG Ashley, until Helena. Helena just, like, brought that up to a whole new level. I have never wanted to punch an NPC so much in my life. And every time I play Leon's scenario, she ruins it. And I think, I'm going to be honest, I really think the biggest cause of all the hate that Resident Evil 6 gets is 100% connected to Helena. Leon is by far the #1 favorite character in the series. I'm not saying everybody's favorite, but he is the mass favorite. I don't know why. He's my favorite. I don't know why, but there's just something about Leon that everybody loves. And then you put him with the most annoying NPC, and it ruins his scenario all the way. So Leon's scenario, which is the closest to traditional Resident Evil 1 and 2, closer to 2, I wouldn't say 1, closest to traditional Resident Evil 2, you can't enjoy it because you have this NPC that's just complaining and whining and awful. And then let's take a look at Jake. Jake Wesker, right? I actually don't mind Jake Wesker as a character. I think he was fine. But there is one thing about that whole thing that's annoying. It's very obvious that Wesker abandons him. He doesn't know his dad. And somehow he cares about his dad. Like when it's like, you killed my dad to Chris. I can tell you, as a person who has a very bad history with his own dad, I wouldn't care. It was like, oh, you killed my dad because he tried to kill everybody? Well, he was kind of a douche. And, you know, the thing about Jake is, like, that's how Jake realistically would feel. They threw in this fake empathy that wouldn't exist. Because let's be honest. I mean, like, nobody playing the game would feel empathy for their dad if they, A, never knew their dad, and B, their dad had caused mass genocide, tried to cause mass genocide. I mean, like, you'd be like, yeah, no, I didn't know the guy. Sounds like an asshole. And so this fake empathy they threw on Chris, I feel kind of that really, you know, it is just stupid, right? There's a lot of stupid fake drama in 6. I feel like 6 took itself too seriously and missed the mark badly. Resident Evil games have always been cheesy. You know, a lot of people tease the whole Chris punching a boulder, but let's be fair here. Resident Evil games have always been cheesy. I mean, the dialogue in 1 is cheesy. The dialogue is 2 and cheesy. The cheesy love story between Leon and Ada is hilarious. 3 is pretty cheesy. I mean, Carlos is cheesy in 3. Leon is, like, come on. Leon is infamously cheesy in 4, and that's why everyone loves him in 4. He's just a one-lining guy. I mean, and to be honest, he kills a Giganto by himself. Let's be real. You want to talk about Chris punching a boulder? I think killing a gigantic zombie by yourself is way more cheesy than punching a boulder. But the thing about it is, Resident Evil 1 through 5 took that and understood it was cheesy. It was cheesy horror. It was fun. Resident Evil 6 just made it tried to make it too serious. They tried to make Leon too serious. They took away Leon. Like, Leon has none of his Resident Evil 4 charm, or even his movie charm from the animated films. All of his charm is gone in 6, which really kind of, I think a lot of the hate of 6 just goes heavily onto Leon. I think it's heavily onto Leon's campaign between Leon and Helena, like ruining all of Leon's just quirkiness and great, you know, the things that people love about Leon. They stripped it from him in 6. They made him way too overly serious. Helena's a whiny little bitch who murdered thousands, and everyone's supposed to feel bad for her. Fuck Helena. I think that is the biggest mess up, and I don't understand how the writers thought of enough fan service to try and make this game, you know, obviously a tribute to all the Resident Evils from 1 through 5. You have Leon's story, which is supposed to be more like 1 and 2. Sherry's story, which is closer to 3, with being you know, stalked. And then, of course, Chris's, which is 5 and 6. Or 4 and 5. Sorry, 4 and 5. Obviously supposed to be more action-based. Great idea. Great idea. I don't know who wrote the story. That person needs to be fired, because that was not their best work. It's not acceptable. And it's an easy fix, which is the worst thing, right? So let's talk about, let's start from the easiest. Let's start with Chris's scenario. Now, I like Piers Niven. I think Piers Niven is great, but not necessary. Piers Niven is, in all terms, just a throwaway character. I mean, they literally kill him in 6. Which is kind of dumb because you don't even get to really know him enough to care when he dies. Like, nobody cared about Piers when he died. It was like, oh, it's like, yeah, well, I didn't know the guy. I think it would have been much better to throw either Barry or bring back Billy. Because Billy has a lot more heart to him than Piers does in 6, and Jake does in 6. Billy has heart to him. So bringing back Billy or Barry in Chris's scenario would have made that full action make sense, you know? And instead of having, or even just bring back Jill, and Jill's the one that drags Chris out of his, instead of Piers surviving, Chris and Jill survive, Chris goes through his complete depression stage, and Jill pulls him out of it, which would have been good, because, in 5, Chris saves Jill, and in 6, you could have Jill saving Chris. It would have been great. I think that's the way it should have gone. I think that's a much better setup for his story. For Sherry's story, I think, honestly, Sherry and Billy would have been a good mix. Having Sherry and Billy. Like, Billy's like this old veteran now. You could have it to where Billy, after escaping Raccoon City, ended up working with mercenaries. Became a mercenary for hire because it's the only way he could make money while staying off of the U.S. Radar, because he'd been falsely accused of murder. And then just have him and, have the shit hit down and have him and, like, Sherry working together to escape it. Or, like, Sherry had to get something, right? And he's part of a mercenary group that was hired to help Sherry achieve her mission. And his entire mercenary squad gets completely murdered by the BOWs. And now you just have him and Sherry working together to retrieve this package and get the package back to the destination they have to get it to. Which is pretty much what 3 is, which is pretty much what Sherry's story is, except Jake is the package. Just don't make Jake the package. Have a different package. Have like an actual item or something, right? Like a rare antidote that they'd found was made by an ex-Umbrella employee who, had left Umbrella, made this antidote, or this vaccine, but was murdered while trying to get it out to people. And so Sherry's job is to go and retrieve the antidote. A mercenary group that is ran by Billy is entered to run alongside her. Billy obviously has changed his name. They don't recognize him as Billy. And then, you could literally have him be a different character and then have him partway through the game be finally identified as Billy Cohen. I thought that would have been really good, especially if for Leon's story, you had Rebecca Chambers running with Leon. Like Rebecca and Leon are running together. And then when Rebecca Chambers and Leon meets with Sherry and this mercenary, Rebecca recognizes him as Billy. And then it's revealed he's Billy. So if I was going to make Resident Evil 6, here's what I would have done. I would have made Leon's story be Leon and Rebecca. And it would have been Leon and Rebecca trying to figure out what happened. Nobody involved is tied to the release of the BOWs. That's all still released by, by the main villain, but nobody knows who did it, right? And so they're trying to find out who did it. The story pretty much follows the exact same way, but instead of Helena being like, oh, this, it's Rebecca and Leon, and Rebecca finds the clues, like, oh, okay, well, we got to go here, and just have like the information be found of where to go. That would have been easier and better. And then when Rebecca meets Billy, and Sherry, she can identify Billy as Billy. Chris's, I think, would better be Chris and Jill, because we've never had a game where you fully play as Chris and Jill together. They're always separate of each other. And so having Jill pull him out, or having Claire pull him out of his depression, and having it be Claire and Chris would have been fine. I think Jill and Chris or Claire and Chris would have been good for Chris's scenario. And then having, pretty much it kind of goes the exact same way. Chris is, kind of doing the same thing. Obviously you don't, you could either kill a character, you don't have to kill a character. I mean, the death in the end is just stupid. I mean, it's just a dumb death. And then for Sherry's story, Sherry and Billy Cohen. And it be discovered, again, once, Billy, when Sherry and Billy meet up with Chris and Leon and Rebecca, Rebecca recognizes him as Billy Cohen. And then that would have been a really cool, I think, reveal for everybody, right? Imagine playing Resident Evil 6, and you have this really just buffed out mercenary dude who we don't know, we've never had a name, he's just like, he's new. And then midway through it, it's revealed he's Billy Cohen. And Billy Cohen survived and ended up joining, getting out of the U.S., via stuff, down from Mexico, fled, and ended up in Europe with a mercenary group where he's fighting alongside his military service, his military, history is beneficial here. That would have been a really cool reveal, right? And then, of course, I that's what I would have done. And for Ada, I would have done Ada, and I would have brought Hunk in with Ada. And instead of making what Ada's was, because, Ada's also was kind of dumb, because it's like, I don't know, it just didn't fit Ada's personality either. And I think it's the biggest issue with 6, is it felt like the writers, or whoever did this game, forgot the personalities of these characters. So I think Ada would have been better if it was if she had been tasked with a mission alongside Hunk, and Ada and Hunk were working together to achieve a mission, even if it's for the collectors, right? Ada's not a good guy. She doesn't have to be a good guy. And then that's another thing in 6, right? They tried to make her a good guy in 6. I mean, which is dumb. She's not a good guy. She's no better than Hunk. They're both mercenaries. So I think if they'd had Hunk and Ada together, and like their mission is to get a sample of the C virus, right? That would have been awesome. And then so you're playing as Hunk and Ada, and having it to where whenever Ada and Hunk help Leon or Chris or anybody, it's done as an essence to better, to further their own goals, not this just all of a sudden I gotta be helpful. I mean, while everyone likes Ada, she's not a good character. She usually helps Leon when it benefits her. And it wouldn't be the first time she stole a virus sample. So you could have Hunk and Ada do that, stealing the C virus sample, for an unknown identity, which could have then been somebody trying to find, if you really wanted to make them the good, create an antidote from it, right? But, or the essence of Blue, I think it's Blue Umbrella, and they're trying to find an antidote from it, which would introduce Blue Umbrella before 7. I mean, it could have been retconned that way easily, too, just having, if you didn't name who the buyer was, who'd hired them. But, Resident Evil 6, let's just get this over with, guys. Resident Evil 6 is a good game if you look at it by itself. It's not great. It's got a lot of flaws. No hope mode left. I mean, whoever programmed being able to take damage during a cutscene should be fired. I don't know why you would program that. Definitely a game that can be fixed with mods, I think. I think if people made mods to make the game better, it'd be easier. But as a Resident Evil title, it's bad. It takes itself too seriously. It completely forgot its characters, and it created throwaway characters. I mean, like, while you could say Billy was a throwaway character, he really wasn't. I mean, like, Billy really wasn't a throwaway character. They could bring Billy back. People would love to see Billy come back. You bring Jake Wesker back. I would like to see Jake Wesker come back, personally. But I know the majority would be like, dude, what the hell? And then, of course, nobody wants to see Helena. Nobody wants to see Helena. I think Helena is probably the most hated character in any Resident Evil game. I mean, she's worse than Mia. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for today. Once again, happy 30th anniversary to Resident Evil. I will be streaming the original 2. I will be doing Claire and Leon's story together on Wednesday. Today is Monday, so if you watch this when it came out, it'll be coming out on Japan time, March 25th, or US March 24th. I will be putting all the VODs up here. And I will be going through all of the games. I'll be doing OG2, and then OG3, OG4, and then doing the remakes. And we'll go all the way through 9. Get through Cream again. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. In the comments, let me know how you guys feel about 6. And, let's have it interesting. What do you think are the ways they could have fixed 6 to make 6 actually a good Resident Evil game? Let's try to be constructive. A lot of people don't like it, and if you didn't like it, I fully understand not liking 6. Again, there's a lot of aspects of this game I don't like, that I don't understand are there. So instead of just saying, oh, it's just dumb, or you just don't like it, or it sucks, how would you have fixed it to make it a good Resident Evil game? Because I think a lot of people look back at 5 and like 5, and enjoy 5. With that said, Siegfried Chillane signing out. Catch you guys in the next video. Make sure to catch my live streams and have a good day.